So yeah, so what we're talking about is that women are soon going to change the world, and I don't know what men are going to do after that. You're going to help us do that, right? Innovating, inspiring, and building nations, and how do we create women leaders, and how do we really go about this whole gender diverse situation that we've been in all our lives to make it more, interesting, exciting, and things like that. So let me start with you, Bardish, because I believe you've been supporting a lot of women entrepreneurs back home in Canada. I read about that whole business development bank and what the government is doing. Do you think it's essential that more and more countries think of building an ecosystem for women, encouraging, putting more women entrepreneurs out there?
Yes, I definitely think it's essential. The reality is that women have been running the world since the beginning of time. So when it comes to our young people, we are the ones who raise the children, we are the ones who keep our families together, we are the ones who build our communities and so forth. What the government of Canada is doing has asked me, the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has asked me as part of my mandate to really look at underrepresented groups. So women entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, Indigenous communities, so that we know that small businesses are our job creators. So how do we plant the seed of entrepreneurship earlier in the minds of individuals? What's so exciting to be here today is that Ryerson Futures has partnered with the Bombay Stock Exchange to be able to bring together zone startups to offer programs like this, so that we are creating this culture even here in India. We want our two countries working better together. Majority-owned small businesses, well, women majority-owned small businesses in India is at 14%. In Canada, it's 15.7%. So the number is actually quite similar. What we know is that there's an untapped potential that we need to maximize, and that's why this conversation is so important.
But why do you think that number is just restricted to 15%, even in a country like Canada, when you're so close to Silicon Valley? In fact, the Silicon Valley numbers aren't great either.
No, they're not. I believe it's because, this is my opinion, and this is why we want to have this conversation, so I look forward to hearing from the successful women. I believe we need to change the face of entrepreneurship. I think we need to share our success stories more often. We often talk about the challenges. We want to overcome those challenges and reflect upon them, yes, but we also need to share our personal stories and how we've been able to succeed to ensure that the women that come after us do not have to face those same challenges. So yes, networking and connections are important, not only for ourselves to come together, but the ones that we have, we also need to gain them and then share them. So if you come across a woman or an entrepreneur and you know somebody else that they need to meet, we need to take that extra step to say, I know somebody that you need to talk to, this is an individual that you need to meet so that you can actually work better together to advance. So the Business Development Bank in Canada was a bank created because there was a gap. Traditional lending institutions or banks did not support entrepreneurs, they did not want to take the risk, so we brought in the BDC. Most recently, the BDC has launched a fund, a $500 million fund, devoted to women entrepreneurs, because we know that venture capital is a challenge. This is a way for us to actually work on the equity piece. So it's not about equality for me right now, it's about equity, it's about giving a hand up to the people who need it. I believe that's women right now. Once we have a level playing field, then we'll be at equality.
That's an interesting point that you make, that the bank itself is willing to go out and back women entrepreneurs. But in India, Lakshmi, let me start with you. Why is it that in the last few years the number of women have been keen on starting up but haven't really gone around doing so? I mean, I was looking at the NASSCOM report, and these of course numbers from 2015 and 16. There's just been a 1% increase of women startup founders.
See, I don't know if it's specific to starting up per se, but you will see this even in the professional setup. Women typically, what starts off with like a 55-45 ratio when people enter professional services drops drastically within 3 to 5 years, and then after 5+ years, it's actually 85 to 15% male to female ratio in corporate professional life. So I think it's a similar reflection even in entrepreneurship. Women tend to obviously have a lot more going on. They always multitask, wear multiple hats. They take on more responsibilities than average male, and that's the honest truth. So I think that is one reason that entrepreneurship is much more 10x, much more challenging. You have to take care of fundraising, you have to take care of business, you're bootstrapped, you have to wear another 10 more hats. So I think some of these could also be reasons that stop people from just plunging into entrepreneurship unless they're able to make that time. The third aspect, of course, is coming from a funding perspective. I don't think everyone faces this, but there is some bias. People do tend to look upon women entrepreneurs time to time. Again, these are exceptions, not the norm. So they do look upon, whether a woman is really going to follow through. What happens if, she has her personal commitments overcome, her commitment to entrepreneurship. Some of these in the back of the mind do make funding a little bit more of a challenge. So in my view, these are the three reasons.
I'm going to in fact delve into the funding part because a lot of people here would like to understand how it works and how are women facing it. But Shinjini, you've been with the RBI, you've been with PwC, and now with PayTM, so it's a long list. And Bank of America. Yes. So how has it been for you personally? Any anecdotes? Was it a struggle, making your voice heard? Now it's not a struggle, of course. I know that for a fact. But how has it been? What were your experiences?
Okay, so first thing first, I think the government does privilege women that join at a certain level. I think in life everything is about where you stand, so your perspective gets determined from that. And one of the humbling things that happened to me was that while I started out in a bureaucracy where you automatically get a lot of entitlements, as I moved out and I started seeing and sharing the experience of other women, it was very humbling for me to realize that that is not the uniform experience, and therefore it's been a learning for me. What I found very interesting and talking to other women, particularly women like Zia Modi or a few other very successful professionals, one of the few messages that I like to give women is that a lot of barriers are what we put upon ourselves, and we need to work equally hard. So the barriers are external, but to break them you need a lot of strength from inside. It doesn't necessarily have to come from outside. So while networking is good, listening to other people's stories is good, there is no magic formula. So if I tell you you do X, X will not work for you. You have to find your own formula. But it is very important to know and understand other stories. What worked for me very much is to always have in mind that life is a long shot. And I'm not going to, if it doesn't happen tomorrow, and if it doesn't happen in the next 6 months, that's not the end of it. So either I'll live long enough to do everything I want to do, or I'll die tomorrow and it won't matter. So just hang in there and work consistently break the, and that applies as much to men as it applies to women. And I just want to make one more point because they're not going to come back to me. And it's a very important thing for me to say, because there's a lot of gloom and doom that you feel, but because the way I'm looking at the new technology, one of the fundamental shifts is that we've always associated businesses with places. So home is a place, work is another place, business is an outside place, home is an inside place. I think what new technology is doing is it's breaking those barriers. Education, for example, campus is another place, work is another place, home is another place. We are going to be living lives where all of that is going to be fused together, and we are going to have much more power to live much more meaningful lives. And I think that is something that you should be looking at in terms of harnessing the power of technology, rather than feeling dismayed at this idea that this doesn't work like this. And that's it. You don't need to come back now.
The whole part about building a culture, what Parvish was also mentioning. Chandni, comment on this, are we consciously doing that? Are we creating a culture where we will not, look at men and women founders differently, or it's there and you have to just deal with it?
Can you hear me? Honest truth, it is there. There are a lot of discriminations that operate, biases, subliminal, subconscious, and gender is just one of them. It's not the only bias, right? So when I'm looking for funding, because as you know, funding is scarce, I'm putting risk capital on the table, I want to be 100% sure that my capital is secure, if not, and it needs to give me that return. So there is a possibility, and it is, we funded, as Mumbai Angel, we funded quite a few women entrepreneurs, and let me tell you, most of the founding teams are a mix of men and women, and that's the best kind of teams that we've seen. So I think that from an investor perspective, there's very little you can do to change that bias. I can't say, oh, listen, she's a woman founder. I'm just telling you practically how it is. We can theoretically think whatever we want to, but practically I would not say, oh, she's a woman founder and I must fund it from a current scheme of things. But I think women as entrepreneurs can break that ceiling. I think entrepreneurship is such a freeing and liberating and empowering experience, and nobody can stop you. Only you can stop you. If you don't have that self-belief, Because entrepreneurship is soul destroying. It will crush you any which way, you're man, woman, in between, whatever, animal, anything you are. It's only about that belief. It's only about taking your ground and rising up and saying, hey, I have an idea, I believe I can change the world. How many women sitting in this room actually really do believe they can change the world? And it's only that, it's that belief. And when you kind of keep building on that belief, you'll go to the table and say, have this idea, and you transmit that belief across the table, and the funding, funding will happen. It happens. We supported the empoWer program that Women Startup runs. Such fantastic women out there. You know what is the difference? It's only that they believe that they can make a difference. They believe in their ideas.
So how do we get more and more women to believe in their ideas, in what they want to achieve? Rashmi, what would you say? Because you've spoken to a lot of people. What are your thoughts? Do we need, like Bards said, that we need to, perhaps start talking about our successes more often?
Yeah, so there are people like me who are doing that. I keep looking for stories of inspiring people, and I've written a book on women entrepreneurs. Just to share my insight is that maybe the statistics show that there are not that many women startups, but then what's our definition of startup? I think there are more and more women starting small businesses, and we don't qualify them as a startup. And they might be in areas that they're familiar with. They might be doing fashion or food, or they might be doing a small coaching class. So more and more women, even in the smaller cities where I travel, I see they all want to do something. And the problem is that they don't think of scaling it up beyond that small business, because they want to keep it manageable. So they're happy to earn a little pocket money, or keep it small. So the main challenge is for them to be mentored and given that sort of a little confidence that they can take it forward. So there are programs today like ISB, Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Women program. So I've met many women who've done before and after. And it makes a world of a difference, especially in terms of their confidence dealing with numbers. There are a lot of women on this panel who are very comfortable with finance, but it's actually not the case with most women entrepreneurs. They feel hesitant they don't feel they can read a balance sheet or go to the bank or talk to their CA properly. So I do believe more in internal change, as you said, that you've got to grow yourself and believe in yourself, be more ambitious. And of course, all women do need that support system. Most of the women I've met, they do always acknowledge the role of their family, their husbands, their mother-in-law, their mother, extended family, their children. And hundreds of men I interview very rarely acknowledge their families because they can take it for granted. Yeah, so sometimes even while we're doing the interview, the child will call up and the mother has to take the call, but I've not seen this happen with the men so much. So these issues are there. But I'm actually quite positive that entrepreneurship is the way, because if our companies don't change, if they're going to expect us to work insane hours and sort of not have any life beyond working for them, women are going to opt out, but maybe they're not going to be happy to do nothing. So they're going to create their own companies. The last thing is that women will look at a much different kind of growth model. I don't think I've met any woman startup, I don't know about your companies, but in general, I mean, a woman knows that when a child is born, he or she takes 18 years, to grow, and it takes a lot of nurturing. So this whole fantasy that we can, give a company extra funding, resources, and make it suddenly, become very big in 3 to 5 years or 7 years, I don't think that's possible. So that women look at a much larger time horizon. So the success stories in my book, these women have grown the company over 15, 20 years, and they're very big today. But are we as investors and as society willing to give that much time?
Yeah, true.
The one thing I want to add to what Rashmi just said and earlier comment as well, I think women tend to have a lot more self-doubt. Going back to that finance comment, a male would probably not know as much, but he probably will fake it and make everyone believe that he knows more finance than the guy across the table. Whereas a woman who even knows it will have that little lingering self-doubt. I kind of fake this, maybe he can see through me. I think that's the one difference I've noticed, that in terms of male-female as well, we tend to always have a little bit more self-doubt. So, whereas the men are great at faking it.
In fact, I was listening to this TED talk, and I'm sure you've all heard about it, tell your girls not to think of perfection, just ask them to be brave. Do we need to start raising our girls like that? Just go out there, even if you have to, ad-lib a bit, fake a bit, and if you're going to get your way around it, why not? Is that a culture that we need to start putting into women, Kashmira?
I haven't raised a single child.
Neither have I, so I don't know.
But I still can talk about it quite happily because there are a lot of kids, particularly in my office, who call me their stepmom. So I think to answer that question, yes, I think right at the growing age, we need to stop these differences. And I think, like we said, that it's only a woman who looks after another woman. And we spoke about it even earlier when we met, that it's very often we as mothers, and I talk about everybody else, who kind of typesets children into, you're a girl, you should be doing this, or you're a boy, it's okay if you do this. We've got to stop that. So the next generation at least believes and thinks differently. So I think that becomes very important if you're going to ensure that people stop these gender biases, which actually get formed from the time they're kids. We've been hearing articles about, why are boys not allowed to buy Barbies or why are girls not allowed to play with guns. I mean, this went on and on and on the internet for the longest of time. And I was at a conversation yesterday in Colombo, and the discussion was where a lady got up and said that, I want to ask all the women panelists, how many of you have taught your boys to make curry? She said, you keep trying to push the girls into the kitchen. He said, so it's the mothers who are doing this constantly. So yes, I think on a generational level we need to look up, and the world is looking up, so why do we want to wait till the children go to college and start going to office, and suddenly you're making them think gender, inclusivity, diversity, etc. This needs to start from the time kids are born, and all of us become responsible for that. Coming back to the subject of women, I think we need to portray ourselves like what has been said, also a little differently. We are certainly bold, I think it makes sense. Certainly put your hand up, because not everybody offers you an opportunity, even if it's there. Your point on self-doubt is so correct, and I've seen it very often played out, whether it's in a conference room or it's in a casual discussion. You'll have a man who knows only this much, but he'll very happily take on the project. And you'll have a woman who is completely capable of handling it, but she's full of, will I be able to do it? Will I be able to manage the resource? Will somebody fund me for it? Will I deprive my children of it? So I think it's the little woman's brain which is so trickily wired that we're thinking of 20 different things and trying to join 20 different dots. Whereas average, and this may not be reflective of every single girl and boy, but on an average, you'll find that the boys will put their hand up and say, I'm cool, I can handle it anyway, don't worry. So I think there is that difference which at least I have definitely seen in my life. So we need to, as women, also say that when there is a challenge, put your hand out. Because not often will somebody give it to you on a platter. And people are looking, so you'll have, whether the Mumbai Angels or you, investors are also looking that if there is self-doubt, how do I put my money there? It doesn't make sense. So you have to infuse that confidence in somebody who's coming forth.
So I'd just like to add one point to what Kashmira said so beautifully about the way we are raised. From the time you are raised, girls are led and conditioned to seek approval. We as a race are very approval seeking. Boys, not so much. Which is why in any conference room situation, I've spent 14 years in the corporate sector, in a conference room situation, you're constantly worried whether you'll be able to pull it off, because ultimately you don't want to be disapproved of in a corporate setting. So you'd rather not take the risk and put yourself out there and fail and be disapproved of than to take that chance and potentially succeed. So that whole approval-seeking behavior that's built into us as children, you're a good girl, good girls don't do this. Your definition of what is a good girl.
Now that you run a company, do you tell women to go out there, take a risk? Are you encouraging that? Is that a culture that you're developing as an entrepreneur?
In my we're a health and weight loss coaching application. 75% of our customers are women, 75% of our employees are women. And what's beautiful about our organization, and I had just a small part to play in it, it was mostly organic, is that most of the roles in the company are played by women who are not qualified to handle them. So our content and our social media marketing is handled by dietitians. Our coaching operations is run by a nutritionist. We encourage people to play to their strengths and to their merit and not necessarily to their qualifications. And I think the beauty of it is that the team together, organically, a group of women has come together and decided how things are going to be at the workplace. In fact, the men in our company feel quite sidelined, to be honest.
I wanted to add something here.
See, I think I'm one of those on the panel who see a lot of women from different strata, different region, different color, different creed. And one simple line of parental advice. I am a mom of 2 young boys, 10-year-olds, twins. So I always tell them, raise your girls up with a mind, with an opinion, and with a voice. Because this is what usually women lack. But don't forget to raise your boys with a mind, with a heart, and with an expression. Because that's what boys usually lack. I think I'll close it with that.
Okay, so I did teach my boys to make curry. Yes.